welcome to the channel. This is GR Mega, a granular workstation by Tasty Chips Electronics, a small company from the Netherlands that got famous by their GR1 granular synthesizer. The first time I saw this instrument, my first instinct was to want to sample all my metal instruments and play them chromatically on a keyboard. And this was exactly the first thing I did as soon as I unpacked this machine. So I started by sampling my instruments and trying to bring samples from other songs and videos I made. Like for instance, sampling a sound that I like in the Mo Grandmother. And if you also follow the channel, you probably seen my video on Audrey 2, that synthesizer that plays with resonance. So first I recorded all my samples, trimmed them in my DAW, and then imported it into this machine. And the GR Mega has 5 different synth engines that you can choose to process your samples. And once I loaded everything from my memory stick that comes with the instrument, I can then use all these sounds to sound design. And these are the 8 different patches that I could come up with as my first gig with this machine. Let me show you. This first sample uses the engine sampler, and this was the reason why I invested in this machine, just to be able to play my samples chromatically. But also to learn and explore this different way of sound designing with granular. I don't know how good you can see it on camera, but those little squares are what we call in granular synthesis the grains. And on the sampler engine, they serve as different playheads, and for each time I press my keys, I generate a new grain that for dispatch I programmed in different directions, so it can actually play the same sound in reverse but also forwards. And the GR Mega can play it polyphonically as well, with up to 20 voices per sound. And the distance or vertical distance between the grains here represents my stereo spread. This sound was very simple. It was basically one of the gongs that I can play. Chromatically. But the second patch I've created, this was actually the foundation for the song you heard in the intro. And this is basically my blade, which doesn't have a root note. But what I can do in my patch here is that I can actually fine-tune all my samples by this transpose parameter. And with that, I can actually play an instrument that is not with a fundamental note on a scale. And these types of soundscape is what is very recognizable on a granular synthesis. So here you can see what, as soon as I trigger a note, in this patch I generate several grains, and they are playing my sample back and forth within this window of time or spread. And also with a stereo spread represented by the vertical axis here. On my patch number 3, I've also used the engine sampler to be able to play my blade more like a bell. And even though that instrument don't have a root note, I can actually play it even polyphonically. I got really excited on how easy it was to actually sample pretty much any sound and play it chromatically using the GR Mega. But I have continued my exploration with the samples I have imported, and this one specifically was a sample that I imported from my Audrey 2 video. And what I was trying to do here, also using the granular engine, was actually to explore a longer sample where I can actually navigate the regions of my sample. And in this one, the interaction became quite interesting, because I know here in the beginning I have mostly my tape delay feedback, whereas here in this region I will find more the feedback harmonics. And at the end of my sample I have a much harsh sound. With a deeper region here in the middle and louder, but I can also play with volume by choosing quieter regions of my sample there. So you can imagine this in a cinematic sound design project. How can I play with emotions here? Going to a louder, noisy soundscape, and then the moment of tension. I really like this patch. And it gave me much more control than if I was trying to apply this in audio. And remember, I can also play all of that chromatically. And I mean, Tasty Cheap's Electronics had that idea from the beginning with the GR1, and this slider really allows for very creative use and exploration of the sample and granular engine. Then I have asked myself, I know that granular is good for doing pads and soundscapes, but what about a more lead sound, something like a bass? And this was what I was exploring here on my patch number 5. where I actually tried to make a bass line, and the bass for this sound was actually a sawtooth of a Moog oscillator that I have looped in my DAW to get even more control. And by controlling my envelopes here, both on the grain level but also on the amplifier level, I could actually create a plucky sound. And in this batch, I even used glide to experiment with. I mean, the GR Mega is a fun house for sound design, but I set myself to do at least one full bank for this first exploration, and in patch number 6 here I went back to granular and pads. And this sound turned out good both for lead or very orchestral pad sound. And then what I learned in this process was that a good way to explore the potential of granular is to actually work with longer samples. And by importing parts of the songs I composed and sounds that I like, I came up also with this sound. Which is an incredible soundscape, right? And the trick here is done by creating multiple grains in a very specific sweet spot of my sample there with a high stereo spread. So you see the grains being created all over the place in the vertical space. But also the fact that this grain direction is moving in the opposite direction of the original sound results in something completely different than what you input as a sample. You can create real orchestras from even a mono sound. But this machine is not only about its sound engines, but it is packed with functionalities like modulation. You have a low pass filter and a high pass filter. You have an effects session here packed with digital effects, a sequencer, and much more. So I wanted to give it a try to make something with modulation a little bit wilder. And that's how I came up with this sound. Which has this rhythmic element to it. And this was also a bass sound that I used for the intro of this video. I don't know how good you can see it on camera here, but the red line that you see flickering around the screen, it's actually the position of my scanning, and I am modulating this with my LFO1 here in a quite high frequency, but I'm also using my second LFO there to modulate the panning of my granules. I also got a very interesting movement by modulating my low pass filter cutoff frequency with LFO number 3. And although I was a bit overwhelmed with this huge panel and all the functionalities, I was amazed on how straightforward it was to actually put my ideas to practice here. Like for instance, in this sample, I had to cut the sample size to avoid some artifacts that I got it in the beginning of the sample by hitting the metal instruments. And for the grains envelope, I have chosen this very different one, which looks a lot like a composite filter. I'm pretty sure I'm just scratching the surface of what this machine can do, and the reasons why I have chosen the Mega over the GR1 is that the Mega actually incorporated a stereo audio input. So this thing has a audio soundboard embedded into it so that you can use it as an effect unit with live audio input, but you can also directly record your samples in this machine. For me, this is going pretty much out of my comfort zone to a new type of synthesis. I understand why people do a lot of the pad sounds on granular. And I myself was seduced by the idea of sampling. But like I said, the more complex my sample was, either it's in its harmonics, like this one, or even in its length, on patches like this one of the Audrey. This was where actually I found new opportunities to find expression and create complex sounds that are not really possible with subtractive synthesis or FM and other techniques that I've explored before. I know that I'm just opening a Pandora box here of exploration. I want to hear from you in the comments if you want to see more of the GR Mega. And if you are interested, I can do a better deep dive on how to create sound design a patch from the scratch on this machine. I am looking into different possibilities to share with you. Many of you have asked for me to share my patches online, and maybe I could share the samples of this session with you. I'm looking into Patreon and some other options, but I also don't want to create any membership relationship with you guys if I don't have a super nice pack of content to offer back. But let me know about your interest, and I can put more effort on making this type of library available for you guys. I'm super excited with this machine. Thanks for joining me in this new granular adventure, and as always, thanks for watching.